Welcome into a brand new edition of Embrace Debate, a Carolina Panthers podcast here on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. You can catch us on Thursdays. We've had to take a couple of weeks off, but glad to be back in the house. We got Cody from the Carolina Cat Chronicles and Monty from the Four Man Rush. I've been seeing y'all going back and forth on Twitter for the past couple of days, so I knew that it was probably about that time for us to get back in here to give the people what they want. The Carolina Panthers. Short week planned tonight against the Chicago Bears on the road. Found out Justin Fields is ruled out for this contest, so we'll have the other kid, I can't remember his name, that went to like a Division IV school. That's going to be it's going to be starting this game for the Bears. I shouldn't be joking because he's probably going to end up winning the game for them. Guys, what's going on? How are y'all feeling this Thursday morning?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be here. Happy to be here back with you, Desmond. Happy to be here back with my number one fan, Monty Fetty. I appreciate y'all. I think we're going to have a great show today, man.
What's the deal, Monty? What's happening?
What's going on, fellas? Man, I'm glad to be back. I know we took some time off, but definitely glad to be back to pack Cody up. Man, glad to be talking for Panthers football, bro. So
love to see it. Well, let's just get into it. Let's just go into one of the main questions I've been seeing bounced around throughout Panther Nation right now, and that's the job availability of the general manager and head coach of the Panthers after the season is over. Would you guys say that general manager Scott Fitterer and head coach Frank Wright are on the hot seat for the Carolina Panthers going forward this season? Monty, let's start with you.
Absolutely, yeah. I it's without a question for me. I think that after ending the season, how we ended last year, and let's be clear, I think that we can make the argument last year we were fighting for the number one pick. Is after we started 1-5, and then Wilkes turned it around. You can make the argument that we just made the wrong coaching hire, and then again now here we are back at 1-7 again. So yeah, man, I think that realistically, do I think it'll happen? No. Do I think both will be fired? No. Do I think they should be both on the hot seat and should be fired? Absolutely. I just don't think there's I think starting 1-7. After the offseason that they had, after they didn't promise that we were going to win the division, but after kind of talking up how good this roster is, and how much we're going to be able to compete for the division this year, and the season's all but over for the Panthers now, man. I think that's definitely a fireable offense. And for Scott, man, it just, when you look at over the last 3 to 4 years how this team has been built, all the above average to elite players that we've had that we've just let go, or we've traded to get almost nothing back in return. I think Scott Fitterer in my opinion, has been his last days as GM here in Carolina. That they should have been fired him. And I'll be honest, man, Frank Wright, for him to be a quarterback guru, for him to be the offensive guy that Fitterer wanted, the offense is still terrible. So, I don't see the point of keeping Frank Wright around either. But again, I know Cody doesn't agree with that. But, I think they both should be on the hot seat.
Cody, your rebuttal to that? Do you think Fitterer and Wright should be on the hot seat?
Well, everybody knows I feel Fitterer should be fired. But I just find it, kind of fascinating, right? That when it comes to the offense, Bryce Young is a victim to a terrible offensive line and a bunch of wide receivers that can't make any separation to save their life. But somehow that same gratitude is not afforded to the coaching staff. And when everybody was excited about Thomas Brown calling plays, everyone turned their back on him immediately after the offense looked exactly the same. What I'm here to tell you is that in one off season, this entire coaching staff had no choice but to roll with the roster they had available to them. Fitterer is the one that has packed this team for the past 3 years with draft picks that don't ever get on the field and a bunch of free agent players that are always disappointing. I'm worried that if you cut bait too fast, now you're bringing in a brand new general manager, a brand new head coach, neither of which had any part in selecting the quarterback that you just traded DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and the first overall pick in 2024 to trade up for. All the coaches say that Bryce Young was their guy. So if that's true, they, in my opinion, need the same grace period that Bryce Young is being given by the fan base. So no, I would not be so quick to fire this team until you put more weapons on the offense around Bryce and better players on defense as well.
Okay, so a couple of things from what both of you guys said, because I'm kind of in the middle with it. I lean more towards Cody's side based off of what he was just saying there. But for starters, the whole Scott Fitterer aspect of this, I can't give Scott Fitterer credit for any draft that was here with him here and Matt Rule, because Matt Rule was the ultimate final say. So I can't give him any negativity on who got picked in those drafts. So really, that means the only draft that he really had more say in was this previous draft that we just had. So those first two drafts that what he was here for were under Matt Rule, and Matt Rule was the buck stops at Matt Rule. So I can't really put the blame on Scott Fitterer for those. For this year, I feel like my buddy Chris Lee over at WRL, he mentioned this on Panthers Playbook at the end of the game last week, and I thought it was so true. I saw a clip of it on Twitter. He was basically like, the Panthers fan base right now, everyone wants somebody to blame. You want someone to point the finger at, right? So it's easy pickings to pick Scott Fitterer and Frank Reich because they're the frontmost people that are in front of the franchise right now. But you're not mad at Scott Fitterer. You're not mad at Frank Reich. You're mad at what's happened with this team since Cam Newton got his shoulder blown off back in 2018. Like, we have the worst win percentage in the NFL since that week of the NFL season back in 2018. So we've sat through all this for 4 or 5 years. Now, granted, 3+ years of that was Matt Rule, and that set this franchise back way further than any fan anticipated. And I feel like we're dumping it all on Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer based off of Fitterer's comments about parachuting a quarterback in. You got to remember in context when he said that. When he said that, Christian McCaffrey was still on this roster. DJ Moore was still on this roster. Like, they still they had weapons on offense. They gave up those weapons to go get a quarterback. So now they don't have those weapons on the roster. So it's not the same team that Scott Fitterer was talking about when he made that comment to begin with. Did they know they were going to do that? No. Did they want to do it? I don't think so, but they did it. So now we're in a position where you've set the franchise back a little bit. You've gone 2 steps backwards to try to take, steps forward. And you really need more than one draft with Scott Fitterer to kind of figure out if he's the reason why. When it comes to Frank Reich, to me, this whole season comes down to injuries. Like, we have been so banged up injury-wise. Right. I was looking at the injury report. It's kind of hard to gauge the job Frank Reich's doing when he doesn't have the dudes that he needs to have.
I believe no other team in the NFL right now has more players on IR than the Panthers.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the injury report, not IR. Brian Burns is out of court tonight, concussion. CJ Henderson got a concussion last week. He's out for tonight. So Von Bell, he's got a quad injury. He practiced on Wednesday, but he's questionable. DJ Chark, I think they just saw they ruled him out with an elbow injury. Laviska Shenault, we ain't seen him in a few weeks. He's got an ankle injury. He's out. Stephen Phillip, the tight end, he's out.
My question to that, Dez, is, who do you blame for the training staff, for hiring the training staff then? To be honest, I'll even take it a step further than that, though, because it's not just the draft picks that I believe that has earned Scott Fitterer the smoke that he's gotten. It's like, dude, he's been the loudest talking about, you draft a rookie quarterback so you can extend and pay players to build around your roster, and the best player on your defense you've yet to sign.
Well, that's because Burns stopped the negotiations once.
But to be honest, he stopped the negotiation because he didn't want it to be an ongoing debate every week about what's going on with the cop. But again, that all stems from Scott Fitterer just not bucking up and paying them.
And Desmond, I want to go on top of that too. I'm tired of doing this thing where we give Fitterer the benefit of the doubt for Matt Rule being here. And
I agree,
and him being the guy
that wasn't the final decision maker.
Okay, but you're the general manager. The only through line through the last 3 seasons of football is Scott Fitterer. Now, hey, if you want to say Matt Rule was in charge, okay, was Matt Rule in charge of letting Hassan Reddick go? What about Stephon Gilmore?
Right,
I think he was. I honestly feel like Matt Rule was the final say in every decision, all the way from the social media group for the Panthers. And we know this. They told us pretty much, in fact, when he left. He had his hand in too many things.
Who has Scott Fitterer drafted that has been an absolute can't-miss player?
He's only had the draft for, last year. But before that, his first-round picks was J.C. Horn, who can't stay on the field, and Derek Brown. So, I think Marty Honey drafted Derek Brown.
And Kemakwanu.
Those are the two. Ike Ekwonu and J.C. Horn. Those are the 2 first-round picks.
Struggle at left tackle.
Yeah, I think Derek Brown, Marty Hurney drafted Derek Brown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that was Derek Brown.
The main problem for me with all this, when it comes to this conversation regarding this, is the fact that David Tepper never cleaned house completely. He only cleaned a room at a time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so when he first comes in, he fires Ron Rivera after a year, where Ron Rivera goes through 5 quarterbacks because he can't keep a quarterback on the field because Cam is hurt at the beginning of 2019. And he decides, I'm going to clean house. I'm going to just go ahead and let Rivera go and all those people, which I think was mistake number 1 in this Marvel looped timeline that we're doing in Charlotte right now. We could go back in time and not fire Ron Rivera and let him rebuild the team. That's what we should have did, but we let him go. So, but you didn't let Marty Herney go. You didn't let his GM go. You let him stay.
That's kind of where I am on the fire Frank Reich and Scott Fitter, because I feel like what it really boils down to, and I feel like this is the conversation that we don't have on a regular basis, is Tepper being the biggest issue. And it's just what they say, crap trickles downward, and that's just kind of where it's going, because Tepper has been the biggest issue. Because in my opinion, how many teams fire a general manager and have their new head coach hire the new general manager?
Right.
And that's kind of the problem that we've had. You've had Matt Rule was responsible for vetting and trying to find Scott Fitterer, and now here we are. We're essentially asking you to do the same thing. We're going to fire the GM and then have Frank Reich help find a new general manager.
And then Frank Reich might be gone in 2 years.
My last thing on this topic, the reason why I say not the coaching staff is because David Tepper has not made any good decisions. So now in one offseason, you want him to fire and rehire a brand new coaching staff and fire and hire a brand new general manager. Like, David Tepper has not proven to got one of those things right. Now we're going to put all of that on his plate at the same time and hope that he comes away with someone that can help us get W's. That doesn't make no sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to fire Frank right after everything you just did this previous offseason to bring him and the staff in. Like, we're only what, 8 games in into the season, we're talking about firing everybody. Like,
checkbook for all of them.
Plus, and we knew going in, we all knew going in that this team was not deep roster wise. Like, we knew it. We all knew it. We knew that, and we knew it was going to take some time for them to build the back end of that roster. I'm not worried about us not having a first round pick. I see a lot of people stuck on that. We're not a first round pick away from anything. We need depth. We need middle rounds. Like, we need 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks that, for backup offensive line and backup.
Well, then you can make the argument Scott Fitter ain't good after the first round either.
To me, that's to be decided, because we're still watching whatever he's picked, year 2, year 3 of whatever they may be in. And we've seen some dudes they brought in off the street that have overperformed. I say this about all those people that were out. We were playing with practice squad players on defense pretty much on Sunday, and only allowed the Colts. I don't think the Colts had 200 yards of total offense like in that game. It literally, the 2 pick sixes pretty much was the difference in that game. The defense did their job, but nobody's out there on defense. They're all injured reserve. That's kind of my point. Like, they're playing with dudes that we had no idea, like Claudin Chirilius, the linebacker that they got from, I think, the Vikings. He's on injured reserve. He just got put on injured reserve last Friday with a knee injury. You're talking about the training staff, the vast array of injuries that have happened to these folks. I don't know if it's a training camp or not, training staff issue, or if it's just bad luck, because you've got everyone from Shaq Thompson to Ian Thomas to Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, Justin Houston, Xavier Woods, Marquise Haynes. Like, I mean, all these names that we expect them to have.
We could go on and on about it too. I understand what you're saying, Desmond, but also I think Monty probably agrees with this. It's hard to not count this Brian Burns situation against Scott Fitterer.
Absolutely.
We knew last year. We knew last year that 2 teams were giving up first round picks, more than one for Brian Burns, and that you still don't pay him. Then this year, 5 more teams reached out that were going to give up first round picks, and you still don't pay him.
Right.
Like, it's buffoonery at this point.
Well, again, they're not going to negotiate the season. Now, if we go through next offseason and they can't get nothing done, they have to tag them, then I agree 1,000%.
But that's on Fitterer, though, Desmond. The fact that they had all that time to get the deal done, they knew that they weren't going to trade him last year, and they couldn't get something done this offseason.
So wait. So you're saying that they should have just gave Burns whatever he asked for? Because that's not negotiating.
Well, Desmond, to be honest, if you let Hassan Reddick go and turn down 2 first round picks, yes, you should. I'm sorry. That's kind of the card you deal yourself once you because you let a better pass rusher go. You got to think about that. We let a better
And
pass
you're
rusher
gonna
go.
pay him more. You're gonna pay him more next year.
Yeah, they're gonna end up paying him more than what they thought. I said that back when they couldn't get it done. I was like, this never works for the team. You're always gonna look at Dak Prescott. Like he got hurt, missed a year. He still got more money than what he was originally asking for because that's just the way the league is. So like Burns waiting benefits Burns more than it does the Panthers. And Burns cut off the negotiations for the season.
But that's why it's a detriment to the Carolina Panthers.
That's if they don't sign him.
But
that's if they don't sign him. If they do, then none of this means anything.
If they would have signed him in the offseason or even last year, he would have been much cheaper than whatever they're going to sign him for now.
You're assuming that Burns would have took that, though. That's the problem.
He shot the organization in the foot.
You're assuming that Burns would have took that, though, because they offered him lower deals. He would not take it. That's why they're so far apart. That's what I'm saying. Everybody's thinking that he hasn't been offered anything. He has been offered deals by the Panthers front office. Burns just doesn't want to take those lower end deals. And then we see why with Sweat gets his deal in Chicago after the trade. So, I mean, all of it makes sense from both sides. It's a business. They can't just throw money at Brian Burns, and they own his rights. It doesn't matter what we think he may or may not should have done. Fitterer knows in his head, I own the rights to Brian Burns regardless of what happens for the next 2 years. Like, regardless of what we do here contract-wise, he can wait it out too. So this is a business. There's both sides to this. I don't buy the whole he screwed up the Brian Burns thing. That's still ongoing.
You're also showing your entire team how you treat your best players.
Right. Yeah.
I agree with. That I agree with in terms of that. But if they get him right and he's like the number 2 paid D in the league when this is all said and done, it was all worth it. And you're showing
sure you can, if they make it right and overpay him at that point, yeah, sure you can say, well, we got it right then. But I think you can go back to the point of saying, well, Scott Fitterer, if you would have just, because realistically speaking, we don't know what Brian Burns' asking price was, but from everything that I've read from reports, from Sheena, it wasn't over 30. Now, realistically speaking, you wait another year, you're realistically going to be in that 30 range.
Yep,
so you can make the argument that, you might not, because if you're going to, because now what we're saying is, well, you're going to overpay him anyway. Now, how much are you going to overpay him? If that's the case, you should have just paid him what he wanted initially.
Right. We knew that. Yeah, I totally agree with that part. That, they should have just paid what he wanted initially because they didn't think that. Again, and all these teams do this. They didn't think the market was going to outpace whatever it is they thought that he was worth. And it always will. As long as the TV revenue is going up and everything else, it's never going to be unless he got hurt. And even that broke his ankle. Like, that didn't affect his money. You know what I mean? Like, he ended up getting paid more than what.
Why not overpay him a little bit last year as opposed to this year when it's going to be even more money for the player that you don't even feel is worth that dollar amount?
Because they have so many holes. That's what we just talked about. Like, it's not a one-man defense. They got to fill out so much other stuff. They need money to do that. Now, they're going to have some money finally this offseason because more dead money will drop off. They'll have more money this offseason than they did last offseason, and that might be why they couldn't come to terms with Brian Burns because they didn't have the money. They will have the money this offseason, so maybe they do give him something close to $30 million per. But either way, I don't know. But here, Let's move over to another topic here. Which Panthers free agent signing has been the biggest disappointment so far? Cody, I'll let you start with that one.
I know because of the contract, a lot of people are saying Miles Sanders, but in training camp, DJ Chark was basically the de facto number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, DJ Chark was the guy that was the downfield threat. He was supposed to be the player that was going to make this offense dynamic this year. And it could not be further from the truth. The dude has a terrible get off. He cannot stay healthy. Even when he has opportunities, he's not even guaranteed to catch the football. And he's not going to be there tonight. I mean, like, we're praying that DJ Moore doesn't come back and have a Steve Smith Sr. type of revenge game tonight. And the only other wide receiver that we have is Adam Thielen. Like, everybody knows that Adam Thielen is going to get so many touches just because we have no other options. So, to me, DJ Chark, I expected him to be a huge part of this offense and one of the players that was going to help Bryce Young in his development. And now I think you can say that he's hurting Bryce Young's development.
Monty, your thoughts on that?
we're so disappointing at so many different positions. It's hard to find which one is the biggest disappointment.
Yeah.
So that's the
Pick
funny
through the trash. Pick through the trash.
I'm going to. It would be Chark for me. I'm going to go in the opposite direction, and I hope that they aren't listening, or I love them and I hope that they don't kill me for this. I'm going to say Bradley Bozeman, brother.
Oh,
I know we extended Bradley Bozeman. I know he's a fan favorite. I love the Bozeman family. I love
Bradley Bozeman.
Dude, he's been unequivocally him and Icky are in a mid battle for the worst offensive lineman on this team right now. And to be honest, I don't. It wouldn't be close if Icky just wasn't so bad, But Icky's been terrible this year, so now I think it's kind of. But Bozeman and Icky both have been absolutely terrible, and Bozeman is a liability now. It feels like at the center position. Now, mind you, I understand that he's coming off an injury, so I kind of try to give him some grace there. But he's simply been bad, man. And we can talk about Miles Sanders not producing. He's been bad as well. But, I feel like you can only produce so much, as running back when your offensive line is terrible. And we have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And even with DJ Chark, yeah, we can harp on him not getting open. But even when he's open, Bryce Young don't have the time back there to get him the ball because our offensive line is terrible. So, I feel like it all boils back down to the trenches. I love Bradley Bozeman, the person, and again, I want to be wrong about this so bad. I want Bradley Bozeman to come out for the next 10 games or next 8 games and shut me up. But to start the season, man, it's got to be Bradley Bozeman, dude. Like when you look at the film, every single week he's getting beaten on a consistent basis for like 4 quarters straight, and it's hard, it's rough to watch, man.
Honestly, I just real quick defend Bozeman just a little bit. I'm not even saying that he's playing well, Monty. I wouldn't dare say that come out my mouth. But what I am saying is almost every game this year, he has had a different man to both his left and his right.
Oh, I agree.
That offensive line, it's so dependent on the man next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have terrible guard play, now you're putting so much more on your center that it's like he's dead on arrival. There's only so much that he can even do. So, again, I'm not saying he's playing well, but it's just another situation where he has no help to his left or his right or any continuity.
Yeah, I don't know about the Bozeman choice. Keep pounding the same way because I was thinking about that game Sunday against the Colts. Colts have had like no pass rush pretty much all year.
And it was like Forrest Buckner.
Yeah, jailbreak. It felt like all day,
like all game, bro.
Like there was literally there's a picture. I'm sure y'all seen it by now. Floating around on Twitter of it's like the Colts front 4. They've already passed the offensive line. Like they're past them, and all 4 of them are like 3 steps away from Bryce Young. Bryce just took the snap. Like he's literally taking 2 steps back. Yeah. All 4 of them are there. The 4 offensive linemen for the Panthers all have their backs turned back to Bryce, like they're facing Bryce. And then you got 2 offensive linemen like 5 yards up the field blocking nobody, standing beside each other. And I'm like, this has to be a Photoshop. And I went back and looked at the game. I'm like, no, that felt familiar because there was times where as soon as the ball was snapped, there's 3 dudes in the backfield. Like right. And you can't blame Bryce. He can't block and throw the ball and catch it. Like, I mean, I get the fact that he might have some deficiencies, but some of this stuff is he's just behind a really bad offensive line. I think we overrated how good the offensive line was coming out of the offseason too. Yeah. And I'll say this from Believe in Panthers from yesterday. Skylar Callahan was talking about this too because he was like, I can't figure out exactly why this line has gone from the way it is because it's basically the same line. You're just missing Brady Christensen at left guard. And he was like, it has to be scheme because, of course, it was different coaching staff here last year and they were running downhill 40 times a game. So you're going to run the ball like no matter what. This is a different offense. It's a different scheme, different
and to be honest, we don't have the personnel to run that power run game like we had.
Right, we don't have a power back. So like they're not
we don't have the personnel to be that type of offense last year. And we can be honest, man, last year if we didn't run the ball 30 plus times a game, we were losing by double digits. Right. So that's kind of the trade-off that we went from. It was like, okay, so we're not running the ball 100 times a game, but now we can't run the ball at all, and we're still getting blown out. So
it doesn't make any sense. Like it
doesn't make sense.
And you said something before, Cody, about how you're laughing at the Panther fans, and I was too. The ones that were screaming for Thomas Brown for weeks and weeks and weeks. Let Thomas Brown call plays. Let him call plays. They finally do it. It took 2 games for them to turn on Thomas Brown. But like, hey, we need to fire Thomas Brown because he look this.
And Desmond, I put out a tweet before he even called a single play, and I said, y'all keep that same energy.
Exactly.
Because everybody's real excited, but Thomas Brown is not about to snap his finger and make another wide receiver that can separate, or an offensive line that can give Bryce any more protection. Like
it's almost unrealistic. It's almost like the fan base felt like Thomas Brown had a separate playbook that he wasn't being allowed to use, but he'd be allowed to use it once he became like, the play caller. Right. And I'm like, they're calling the same plays.
They've always said that they've been working in tandem. That Frank Reich and Thomas Brown were collaborating on calling plays.
Yeah, so, I never believed the tandem thing either. Anyway, man, it's like realistically speaking, anybody that real people that play football is like you don't have 2 people calling plays for your offense. That just doesn't happen. Even if you have a collective unit or 2 people that have put together one collective play calling, it's very rare that you have a guy whisper and say, "Hey, man, I want to run this," but that just doesn't happen. So when he came in and said, "Well, it's collaborative that we're gonna," it's like, dude, you already have too many chefs in the kitchen now, and that's what it looks like. It looks like you get parts of McVay's offense. You get parts of what Reich ran in,
I thought he meant collaborative in terms of both of them developed the offensive game plan going into Sunday.
Yeah, that's a losing recipe in itself.
Well, okay, but that's what they were doing. So my only point was Thomas Brown, even before he started calling plays, already had his fingers on this offense. And it's like people expected it to look entirely new, like what Desmond said, like it was going to be an entirely
brand new playbook. It's the same playbook
that was never realistic.
And by the way, it's a different
that is my only argument when it comes to defending this coaching staff. I'm not saying that they've been wonderful, but it's like Panther fans pick and choose who they want to give the benefit of the doubt to. Bryce Young is our number 1 pick, so everyone's going to give him the benefit of the doubt because that's our quarterback of the future.
He's not getting the benefit of the doubt.
From half the fan base, it's that Cam Newton thing. Half the fan base is going to defend Bryce Young no matter what. The other half, they're going to down him no matter what. It's the Cam Newton thing all over again. It's the same exact dynamic. No matter what Cam did, there's going to be a segment that did not like Cam Newton for whatever reasons. Auburn, Alabama stuff.
I'm just saying, give the coaching staff the same grace that we've been given to Bryce Young.
I agree. I actually agree.
If one deserves it, then the rest of them deserve it as well.
Because what happens if you just fire this? First of all, think about it this way: if you fire this coaching staff after they start, say they lose to the Bears. And then they lose to Dallas the next week. And you have this situation like you did last year when the 49ers came into town. It was blood red in the stadium. You kind of had a feeling something was going to happen at the end of that game. And it did. That was the end of the Rule era. If that happens and the Cowboys invade Bank of America Stadium, which they're prone to do, and the Cowboys beat us and we're 1-9, like at that point, it's going to get really loud about doing something. I don't want David Tepper to fire Frank Reich 10 games into his first year after he just fired Matt Rule, and he just fired the Charlotte FC coach like yesterday.
I ain't gonna lie to you, man. We start 1-9, dog. I want to clear the entire room.
Here's my question: who would come here? Who would come here and play for owner like that? So indecisive with who he wants that he won't even give you a full season to see it through. Like, and you've got 20 dudes on IR. Like,
Desmond, everyone is jumping and hollering for Jim Harbaugh.
That's what I wanted before, frankly.
Bro, it's like this is the deal, though. Why would Jim Harbaugh want to come and be the coach for an owner that is one and done every single year with a brand new coach? And David Tepper likes all the control. He wants his hands on everything. Harbaugh doesn't want David Tepper telling him what to do.
Now wait, hold on. That I will push back on because we don't know. And I've said this many times on many shows. We don't know how much control David Tepper wants other than him wanting to win. We know he wants to win. But honestly, Cody, we've only heard the man actually speak to us 5 times in like 5 years. Like we really don't know like what he is. You know?
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I think that's because he's trying to avoid the egg on his face, bro. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of why we haven't seen him, we haven't. That's what my only point is. We don't know the temperament of this man because we don't really know him. Like he's not really out there like that, like a Jerry Jones or somebody, or Robert Kraft. He's not out there at all, really. Like, Skyler said,
Yeah,
he's been
but
going on for 4 years. He's seen him twice.
that post-draft press conference after we drafted Bryce, that was so revealing to me because he wasn't even at the podium. The man wasn't even on the microphone, and came up and just decided
and wanted to be seen, right?
Yeah,
That
wanted to be seen.
felt like a victory
Bro,
lap
he
to
was
me.
so happy.
Yeah, that felt like a
And-
victory
and-
lap. He just wanted to be seen. Like the Panthers had gone through 4 years of suck, and now all of a sudden they're all in the headlines for doing something like this. He wanted to be at the. I mean, it's his toy. He bought it. I get it. It's his house.
I think that Bryce Young, that was just as much David Tepper as anyone else. I believe David Tepper fell head over heels in love with Bryce Young. So now David Tepper has to make sure that the next GM and head coach that they're down with Bryce Young because they didn't select him.
I wanted Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if y'all remember this, but last year before we ended up on Frank Wright, remember there was the whole thing that Jim Harbaugh had actually called into Carolina and checked on the availability and what was going on because he was thinking he might not be at Michigan much longer. It was like 2 years in of Matt Rule or something. He ended up going back to Michigan.
Well, even last year, it was rumors saying that he wanted out or was about to leave. That was going to be his last year in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
There were some ties to Carolina. Man, look, I'm gonna be honest. If Harbaugh wants to coach for Carolina, you pay him whatever he wants.
Yes, sir. Bring him in here. Bring him to me.
I want to make it clear. I'm not opposed to Jim Harbaugh. It just doesn't seem very realistic to me. And I think what Karen Troy said in the comments is pretty much what I'm saying. Harbaugh wanted roster control, and David Tepper didn't want to give him that because everybody else, David Tepper hires yes men. He hires the men that are going to say, yes, boss. Whenever Tepper says jump, they're going to say how high.
Now, I will say this, though, too, and I did say this on Believe in Panthers. Jim Harbaugh won't be here next year. Jim Harbaugh is going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So we can just kind of
I can see that. I mean, it's a bigger market, and that's kind of now to y'all's point. That's going to be the hardest thing for us is we already aren't a winning team and we're not a big market. So finding one of those type of coaches is going to be that much harder. And but I'll be honest though, I mean, people just don't. From everything that we read about David Tepper last year, people just don't want to be here because of David Tepper. So I'll be honest. To y'all's point, this is, I guess I'm kind of backtracking on my point. This is to y'all's point. If you fire him, who do you bring in? Because people just don't want to be bothered with David Tepper and the micromanaging, the over controlling. And because I agree with Cody, I think that's his style. He's just not as vocal as Jerry Jones. And he hasn't won as much as Jerry Jones. Those are the two biggest things. He's just not as successful and not as vocal. But he absolutely wants a guy that is going to conform to whatever he says. And if David Tepper had the winning resume, that kind of will give me some ease. But you don't have that winning resume to be so demanding of or be so controlling over this coaching staff. And he just continues to fail at simple stuff, dog. And I really don't know how, because I don't care really who we keep at the front office. As long as David Tepper here, bro, I just don't have faith in him anymore, man.
Frank Wright has to work. Like, this has to work. Like, it can't be impulsive. We stop it, starting all over again for the third time in 5 years. Like, everything that we liked about the Frank Wright signing, him being the first Panther quarterback, he's got ties here. He lives in Charlotte. He's been here for 20 plus years. His kids went to school here, all that good stuff. Like, this has to work, because if this doesn't work, then you got an even bigger problem than what we have right now. So, like, to me, they need the time to figure this out. Rookie quarterbacks rarely work well. The main problem with this, too, is that the counterpart to Bryce Young is C.J. Stroud, who just went out and threw for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns and a game-winning drive at the end after we just played them, and you have to compare them to each other for the rest of their careers. They're joined at the hip. So we're seeing us watch our quarterback get chased and run for his life like every Sunday and not be able to get the ball downfield because of it. And then you see C.J. Stroud looking like everything's easy. He's got dudes getting separation and they're running down the field and doing all this stuff. So all that ties into it too. But it goes back to what I said at the very beginning of the show. We're not mad at Frank Wright. We're not mad at Scott Fitter. We're mad at the past 5-6 years of ineptitude of the Panthers that we've had to sit through and watch after Cam Newton's shoulder got blown up. Like, literally, it started. That was the point of the timeline where everything started going like this, and we have not figured out a way to go back this way. We've had a couple of bumps where we've gone up. When Cam Newton came back and they played Arizona, that game in BOA, a little bump up.
Hey, Desmond, you know what Bryce Young,
Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, but Desmond, you know what Bryce Young has that CJ Stroud don't?
What's
A
that?
good score on his S2 test.
Maybe that'll help him down the line here, hopefully, because we need it. Lord knows we need it. We're coming up
He
on
hates
time.
that test.
We were talking earlier about the offensive line. Who would you keep on the Panthers offensive line for 2024? Because they're gonna have some questions here about maybe moving guys or letting some dudes go on about their business. The names I didn't expect to be questioning, like Bradley Bozeman, Austin Corbett. They just signed Bozeman to an extension, so I'm sure he's going to be here. Corbett, I believe the same. Moton got his money a couple years ago. Is there someone on this line that you definitely would keep?
Yeah, I think you got to Corbett for sure. You know, he's just got back, so it's like it's hard to blame. You know,
he's been back in game. Yeah,
he came back with 2 games, so
yeah,
you can't really blame him for this offensive line looking back. He hadn't even been here for the majority of the season. And you know what? To be honest, and I'm gonna give Cody his flowers here. Brady Christensen, hey man, you know, whether you want to argue him at guard or offensive tackle, I could care less about where you put him. He was one of the most consistent and better offensive linemen that we had, and you're seriously much as we missed Corbett. So you know, I feel like those are 2 staples that you got to keep. Everybody else, man, look, brother, I love you. It's cool, but and realistically speaking, Bozeman's not going anywhere. Like you said, we just extended him, so he's probably not going anywhere.
And I like Bozeman, yeah. So I would.
But your 2 offensive tackles, I'm looking them dead in the face. Like, dude, it's almost time to for y'all to either catch the bench or y'all do better, or we're gonna get y'all out of here, man. And especially Taylor Moton. You know, Taylor Moton was supposed to be the you know, he's always been looked at as a top 12 right tackle. He's always been looked at as one of the upper echelon players on our team, and he's being paid he's being paid a healthy sum of money for him to be terrible this year. Like, we don't talk enough about Taylor Moton because Icky has just been that bad.
Yeah, Taylor Moton style. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Taylor Moton's been literally. He's been bad, bro. And this is to your point, Des. Like, it's confusing, not even frustrating. It's confusing to see how big a difference this offensive line has went from a year ago to now. Because almost nothing has changed other than just injuries, losing Brady Christensen.
They got Throckmorton at left guard right now instead of Brady Christensen. I'm wondering. I need to go back and look how much Brady Christensen and the running backs were helping Icky like last year. You know what I mean?
Oh, they were. Whenever they were in passing downs, they always had a tight end and a running back on Icky's side.
Yeah.
Which that brings me to my point. The only axe I have to grind is with Ikem Ekwonu. And I'm not even calling him a bust. A lot of Panther Nation, they're ready to move on. Like, they think that the man is done, can't do it. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying what he actually is, which is a left guard.
Yeah, I'm starting to come there too.
And the more that we continue to try and fit a square peg into a round hole and make him play left tackle, we're hurting his development as a football player.
Cody, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Icky not better at guard than Christensen. I'm not putting Icky at guard over Christensen. I'm not.
That's a good point too.
You know what, Monty? Brady Christensen's a better left tackle than Ikem Ekwonu.
I would say, yeah. At least want to see.
To be honest, we don't know that. And
I want to see it at least.
We don't know that. But what we do know is Brady Christensen is a valuable starter at left guard. So my point is, bro, I'm not trying to Icky is, as far as I'm concerned, bro, Icky either do better at left tackle or just ride the bench. Because I'm not moving a good starter at left guard.
He's so strong at the point of attack.
Why
not put him in a better scenario? His feet are terrible to play left tackle.
The problem with The problem with benching Icky, there's no one behind Icky. That's the problem. That's why he's still out there. I
100% agree. You have no other options at left tackle right now.
He's got to play. There's nobody that can play left tackle.
But going forward, it should absolutely be in consideration in the future to test it out in the opposite direction. Christensen at left tackle, which I believe he should have been since he was drafted, and Ikem Ekwonu at left guard, and see what happens. It can't be worse than whatever we're doing now.
And again, they're not. I don't think it's got to be scheme. Like, they're not running the same scheme, the same blocking scheme that they were running the last half of the season last year when they were running the ball 40 times a game. Regardless of yards per carry, they were going to run the rock down your throat 40 times. We got to a point in the season where we all knew, like, it didn't matter who we were playing, oh, this is going to be one of those games where we just run the ball like 40 times or whatever. It kind of blinded us to the fact that they couldn't pass protect. That's why we were running the ball 40 times. You know what I mean? Like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, PJ Walker. We tried out all these quarterbacks, and we could not protect any of them last year. It's the same line. So, like, why are we surprised that they can't protect for Bryce Young? That's kind of been my question. They couldn't protect for the other three quarterbacks last year, and that's why we stopped trying to throw the ball. So the problem this year is that we can't revert to that where we can just run the ball because we let Donta Foreman leave town. Like, and he's not even getting dressed half the time in Chicago. Like, they're not even using him. I didn't realize he left there. He went there for $2 million for one season.
Yeah, they paid him a Bullberry biscuit.
You know what?
That's it.
I think Foreman was out when Wilkes didn't get the job. I think Foreman, when Wilkes didn't get the job, I think Foreman was out of Charlotte as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He wanted to start over with a brand new coaching staff and then be fighting for rep. Now, mind you, of course, he should have probably just taken the money here with us because he would have been in a better situation than we're in.
No doubt.
He'd been able to run the ball and
him and Chuba would have been a nice 1-2 punch like there.
Wasn't it around the time they signed Miles Sanders? Isn't that when they lost him? Like, didn't they sign Miles and then he left like the week later or something like that? I thought they were like overlap. I think that's why he left, because he knew he wasn't going to be the lead back. But he's not even like the second or third back in Chicago. Like Chicago, I've said all year, well, at least we're not the Bears. We're not the Bears. We're going to find out tonight if we're the Bears or not, because
we might be worse than the Bears, bro.
We might be worse than the Bears. That's been my only thing I've clung to like all season. Like, well, at least we're not as bad as Denver. We're not as bad as the Bears. Like, we got some talent. Actually, we don't. Like, we're pretty.
We're the worst, bro.
We're
number 32 out of 32.
And the worst part of it, and for the fans, like for all of us, we're not getting our brains beaten in every week. You know what I mean? Like, we don't suck that bad where like we just don't have any hope of winning the game. We're good enough to compete with whatever we throw out there. It's always a rock fight. No matter who we see for a little bit of that game, it's going to be 9-6 or something like that. And we can't score or whatever's going on. And then we do something to tilt it to the other team's favor, whether it's turnovers, not converting a fourth down, an offsides penalty at the worst time, getting a targeting penalty on something that's not targeting, like random stuff that happens. And before you know it, the other team's kind of pulled away. Because if you take everything out of last Sunday's game, the 2 pick sixes to more from Bryce Young were pretty much the difference of the game. Like, I mean, that's 14 points. Like, it felt like it was bigger, but that was the difference in the game. We played a sloppy game and gave them 14 points and lost by 13. We held them under 200 yards on defense with dudes off the street. Like, that's why I'm like, I can't blame the coaching staff because they're still getting them to play hard.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And if you did fire Frank Reich, you'll have to understand that whatever coach comes in next, they're going to want to bring their whatever staff they want, their entire staff. So Ejiro Evero, he's done a pretty darn good job considering what he's had to deal with and all the injuries. Our defense is keeping us in games.
Now, I will say this is something I've heard too. Say that scenario I just said a minute ago plays out and we lose to the Bears tonight, and Cowboys come in here next Sunday and we lose to them like big, and we're sitting there at 1-9. I can see a scenario where they do let Frank Reich go, not because of wanting to hire another guy, but because that guy's already on the team. And Ejiro, like it seems like he's that next hot candidate. If you want to keep him here, you would have to let Reich go to promote him, right? So you promote him to interim head coach, but we've seen that story. We saw it last year. So it doesn't even guarantee that he would have it at the end of the year. So you got it. The Frank Reich thing has to work. It has to work. There cannot be a we fire Frank Reich and start this over again. It's got to work. They built the story in. Like, if this doesn't work, who's going to want to come here? This dude has ties to here. And it just, you know what I mean? Like, it has to work. It can't be a situation where we just fire everybody because they're going through some hard times, like Dusty Rhodes would say. You know, like, you can't just send him on his way before the season is over. Like, he's got to at least finish it out. And then it's David Tepper's team. If he wants to fire him, then he's got all the reason in the world to do so, or all the right in the world to do so. It's his team, not ours. So if he wants to fire the guy after one season, that's fine. I don't think they're going to only give him one season. He gave Matt Rule 3. So, I mean, why would he give Frank Reich 1?
Yeah, it's bad for optics. Whenever you're firing a coach every single year, I mean, he's already doing that with the Charlotte FC. But this is what Jimmy Haslam did, who was also a minority owner with the Pittsburgh Steelers, went and got the Cleveland Browns. And everybody knows how the Cleveland Browns have been for the past, 15, 20 years or whatever?
Yeah. I know we're right up against it because I got a bounce here. We're already at 11:30. But real quick, for one, Willie Smith was actually suggesting we start taking call-ins on this show. And we might do that. That might be something unique we start doing to let people ask the questions through the link. He's asking Cody and Monty, what is the identity of this team?
We don't have one.
Yeah.
That's an easy answer there, brother.
I mean, what are we? Are we a passing team? Are we a run first team? Are we a defensive minded team? Are we a scrappy team?
That's the identity of the Carolina Panthers.
Are we real fast? Like what are we? Like we don't have Miami's the track team, like
how does Mike Tomlin say? We're just a bunch of nameless gray faces.
They Tomlin their way to the playoffs, too.
Fellas, y'all know what our identity is. We're the get back team. Team see us on the schedule. 100%. Oh yeah, we gonna get 100%.
Back. Hey, playing the Carolina Panthers is the cure for all the ails your football team.
Correct. We're gonna have a career day when we play the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, bro. If you need to get right, the Panthers got your back, dog.
Well, look, I guess I hope y'all are ready to see DJ Moore go off for 200 yards from pass receiving tonight from some dude I've never heard of before at quarterback in Chicago, where quarterback careers go to die. We're gonna probably make this team look fantastic tonight.
Oh, dude. I seen what was it? My boy Locke that was drafted by Denver, bro. He looked like an all-pro quarterback against us. So I wholeheartedly expect Badgett to light us up tonight.
No Burns. We're on like our 5th and 6th string cornerbacks and safeties right now.
No Burns.
No linebackers really. Yeah, Houston's on the IR.
No JC Horn. No CJ Henderson.
I can picture the meme. We got to get out of here. I picture the meme, the Will Smith meme, the Fresh Prince, where he's standing in the living room. There's nothing in there. That's Derek Brown. Like Derek Brown standing there, like looking around, like where is everyone? Like everyone's gone. Like who are you? I don't know who I'm lining up beside. That's our Carolina Panthers right now. It's good to laugh. Well, look, Panthers, Bears, Amazon Prime, Thursday night, 8:15 is the kickoff. Put yourself in a good mood. Watch the season finale of Loki or something first before you dance over into.
Oh yeah, I caught up on that yesterday, dog. Because I was like, I'm at least gonna have something to talk about.
Bro, who still watches Marvel anymore?
Dude,
never.
Loki is the savior. That show has completely saved that franchise.
I was gonna say this show isn't long enough for me to slander my Cody right now.
I know, right? We'll save that for next time. You got that in the very end. We'll save it for the next time, though. So for Cody, for Monty, I'm Dez. You've been watching Embrace Debate. Go hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. Thank you to everybody. We just crossed 1,000 subscribers last week for the first time, so we're very happy about that. More content coming on the way. You can catch this and other shows like the Cat Cave on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. The videos are stored there on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, so go check that out. For all of us, we'll see you guys next time.
Desmond, real quick, tonight at 7 we're doing a pregame show with What's Up Doug. It'll be live on his channel and on C3 and tonight sometime around the fourth quarter we're doing a post-game show reacting to all the interesting things that happen in Thursday night football, so check us out tonight.
The comment section's debating the comic stuff, so we might have to talk about that. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Karen knows what's up.
Watch Gen V and the boys.
Bro, those are my shows.
We got to get out of here. We're up against it. We'll see you guys probably next week. I think we're getting back on a regular time. And Willie, we'll think about that. We might start doing the call-ins like they do on the C3, the Friday free-for-alls or whatnot. Although that looks like it gets super hectic. So I'm not sure. Let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. We'll see you guys next week. Good luck, Panthers up in Chi-Town. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.